So everyone should see my screen. And first off, I wanted to thank everyone for being here today, not only investing the time, but also investing in yourself and your business and learning more about how we can be more data-driven in our recruiting. And so really the purpose of the time today is to learn and show you how we can use all of LinkedIn's data to help you differentiate from your competition and think more strategically about your business. And so a little bit of information on who your presenters are. Lauren, myself, I work at LinkedIn within our search and staffing division. Been here a little over 2 years now, working with people just like you. And why I'm so passionate about this topic specifically is even before I joined LinkedIn, I was working for a data company, Gartner, if you're familiar with it, but we were analyzing data trends every single day, working with tech vendors. So whether that was forecasting, market analysis, anything data driven to help build and grow that organization. And now I'm seeing what it's doing for staffing companies. And so a little bit about myself, and then my colleague Steve here, he has joined LinkedIn as well from the actually search and staffing industry. He worked at Robert Half for almost a decade as a regional vice president here in Chicago. And so he'll be presenting today on using some real world anecdotes, some of his experience to use our data to then think more strategically about your business and really create a better customer and client experience. And so then with that, a quick agenda for our time. There's really 3 main value props of what we'll show you today, which is called Talent Insights. The first of which is how we can use this to really determine how we can grow and scale your business, whether that's different market opportunities, growth potential, or potential downturns. And then also using the data to really become the subject matter expert for both your clients and candidates. We have the largest view of the talent landscape, so it's using and analyzing that data to create great customer experiences. And then at the end of it, we'll show you how to monetize this. So really interpreting all of our supply and demand trends, the demand for certain skill sets, to do a couple different things, whether that's negotiating higher placement fees or at least justifying what you're asking for with your client or hiring managers. So then going to the next slide here. So with Talent Insights, every 2 seconds, 637 new data points are created. That's 258 people have looked at jobs, 3 people visited company pages, 318 new connections were made, 50 new skill sets were added to profiles, 4 new job posts were created on the newsfeed, 1 new student or recent grad has created a profile, and 35 people have applied to a job, all within the last 2 seconds. So 637 new data points every 2 seconds, which then creates this huge ecosystem of both the candidates, so 630 million people. So 630 million members. And then 26 million companies are also represented on our network. So then looking at all of this data that LinkedIn has collected over the 16 years to then build strategies around, which we will show you here today in our data visualization tool called Talent Insights. And there's really 4 use cases for this. The first would be planning your business, so defining your strategy to evaluate maybe new markets to enter into, growth potential, different opportunities where you're most likely to win. Everyone here works in a recruitment firm. You're all recruiters or you work within one, so how we can use this data to elevate your recruiting strategy. Also setting expectations with your clients, your hiring managers. We could also use this for business development, so identifying new business and growth opportunities, whether that's looking at clients or companies that are hiring talent or losing talent, where that's coming from. So the next time that you walk into, whether it's a client conversation or a prospect potential new business, then you have knowledge to really build your business case or have a very knowledgeable conversation around the market. So that way you're differentiating from every other staffing firm that's knocking on your doors. And then the fourth point would be creating marketing campaigns, knowing what we know resonates with this audience or your target audience, to then help you build messages that we know will resonate. And so with that, we will kick it into a live demonstration of how we could actually use this data. So that's conceptually why this tool was built and really the power behind everything. But to make this relevant for you, we'll provide a couple real world use cases. And so before we do that, I will kick this into our screen share. And I will actually stop the video here since we're going into our tool. All right, so I'm gonna pass this over to Steve then, and we'll walk you through some examples.
All right, thanks everybody. So as Lauren had mentioned, so I'm Steve Lickus. I have been with LinkedIn now for 2.5 years. Prior to that, spent nine years at Robert Half, both as an individual contributor on the sales and recruitment side, and then as a senior sales leader my last couple of years in the business. You know, as I was managing teams and managing different revenue streams there, I always had to like stop and think, you know, are we tackling the market in the right way? Are we actually, you know, being efficient with our time? And like, is my strategy sound as business changes and evolves? And, you know, not having access to what you guys could potentially have access to now with Talent Insights, I think there's so much data here and so much employee movement information. Like, you can take a snapshot of, you know, any market area in the world and have a really, really interesting ability to make strategic decisions based on what's going on in your marketplace. And so in the interest of time, I've built out a couple different reports. They're done very easily. All I had to do is type paralegal here and put general Chicago area or greater Chicago area. And so I'll kind of walk through what this talent pool report will show you. So in Chicago, there's 5,600 paralegals. That number has grown by only 2% in the last year. However, 915 of those 5,600 people have actually changed jobs. So almost 20% of paralegals changed jobs. And I'm sure recruitment agencies had a lot to do with that. Interestingly enough, there's currently 170 job posts that are in Chicago right now for paralegal. One thing that's very interesting is if I click on this right here, it actually is going to open up a window of the top companies that are hiring in that space. And you'll see over here, Robert Half has a very robust legal practice, but interesting, like Valve and Controls, not probably a place that you would typically think would be hiring paralegals, but they have 11 openings right now. As I move through the dashboard here, 277 of the 5,600 people are actually engaged with my talent brand at LinkedIn. Since I'm running this as an employee of LinkedIn. It's going to say that hiring demand is very high in this space, and that's determined by the amount of in-mails going out to people with paralegal titles versus other job categories on LinkedIn. A lot of companies are interested in gender diversity right now. There will be gender stats on every position, so 82% of the people in this field are female. We also compile compensation data, so the average total comp is 70K with a range from 50 to 94. And so that's just information, you know, kind of at a 30,000 foot level. As I start to think of how do I apply this, so in this next section here, who is employing this talent? I think about like, are my recruiters if I specialize in paralegals, recruiting out of the right companies, and are my business development people out in the market forming relationships with companies that hire paralegals. So if I click here, it's going to take me to the full company report, and it's going to give me data for the top 100 companies where paralegals are employed in the greater Chicago area. And so as you go through this list, this one currently is sorted by number of professionals. And as I hammer all the way down, it'll take me through the amount of paralegals at every single company in the top 100 in the stack here. It's also going to tell me which companies have jobs posted currently. So again, we saw Robert Half, but it's going to give me all the other companies listing jobs and the ability to follow through to those jobs. If we have enough data to compile compensation, it'll also give me a listing of what we know about compensation across employers. And so Jenner and Block is on average paying almost $40K more than for paralegals than Kirkland and Ellis. Lastly, on this main screen is attrition. And so attrition obviously is very interesting from a perspective of, is this a great recruiting source in my market? Also, is it a great place to go and try and place contractors? Because where there's turnover, there tends to be needs that are being unmet, and it creates a very interesting opportunity to position the contract workforce. Additionally, if I drill down here into the amount of professionals, I can actually look at who's grown the most over the last year. So clicking here, you're going to get a lot of companies that are growing, not necessarily the brand name law firms that we saw in the previous view. So Pintes and Mullins, I would suspect, I don't know this, can't confirm it for sure, but they may have opened a law firm within the last year in Chicago. Here's another law firm here that's grown. They had 4 paralegals a year ago, now they have 9. And so when I think about efficiency of my business development teams, like I'm going to make sure that every company on this list actually has somebody out in the market doing business development, because we have data to support that, like this is where the hiring is taking place. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about just direct application. I think the recruitment business in general is not recession proof, and I know there's lots of fear that like a potential recession could be coming. While not recession proof, I think we need to be thinking about you as business owners. How are you going to differentiate yourself against the other recruiting firms in your markets? And so when I think about differentiation, like I always turn to like the customer and the candidate experience. And so I'll go through here quickly, what I mean by that. So let's say, to keep confidentiality, I'm going to use LinkedIn as the, kind of as the sample company here. But you would be able to do this for any company. So say I'm a staffing firm that places salespeople, and I am in the Chicago market. And so account executive is the most common title for new business development people. So in Chicago, there's 19,600 professionals with that title currently. An insane amount of 30% of those people have changed jobs in the last year. And there's incredibly high demand right now, 877 job posts for AE in Chicago. Because we have a sales office here in Chicago, 4,000 of those 19,000 are already engaged with LinkedIn's talent brand. And so any post that LinkedIn sends off from its company page is going to land in the newsfeed of 4,000 AEs in the Chicago market. Demand is very high, 43% female, 57% male, average total comp 83. So if I'm trying to figure out where to go in the AE space in Chicago, I'll take a look at my companies. I'll see Yelp has a huge presence, Echo Global, Career Builder, Salesforce, and here we are at LinkedIn at 123. LinkedIn's grown 31% year over year, and our average compensation for AEs is 114, 100. I look at some other companies. You could sort by attrition, like I showed before. LinkedIn's actually had 16% attrition in the last year in this space. So now let's say that I'm a business development person and I'm lucky enough to have set up a meeting with a hiring manager for AEs in Chicago. I would pull down, this is the LinkedIn company report. So you get talent pool and company reports. And I, in the interest of time, LinkedIn, General Greater Chicago Account Executive. Here's your 122 here, 35 hires in the last 12 months, 16% attrition, average tenure 2 years. Here's where it starts to get really interesting. So imagine I'm a business development person, I'm sitting with the hiring manager at LinkedIn. I'm gonna be able to have a very educated discussion with that person and be able to share with them that DocuSign has had 3 hires of AEs from LinkedIn within the last year. And I'll have a full list here. I'll also be able to share with them that LinkedIn is doing a lot of hiring from CareerBuilder, Gartner, Hireology, etc. I can click into talent flows now. It's actually going to give me the last year of hiring. So if I'm planning on attacking LinkedIn at some point using historical data, they had a big spike in hiring in September. That might be a time to prioritize LinkedIn from a customer perspective. And you'll see here, as we've drawn very close to our fiscal year end, we tend to focus on closing business, right? Instead of, with our existing teams, instead of hiring. But you kind of know from the last cycle that we're going to have a hiring surge coming through here soon. I could sort by number of hires, number of departures, see different ratios there. And I also can go and see who LinkedIn likes, which schools LinkedIn likes to hire from. So 11 of our 122 AEs come from University of Madison, Wisconsin. And they represent 9% of our total employee pool. So as I'm looking at taking a job order from a sales leader at LinkedIn, like I'm going to be able to have a very informed discussion with them. Probably will pick up the rec, and whether I fill it or not, I'm going to be leaving a very lasting and memorable client experience, which I'm sure that hiring manager, whether I'm successful this time or not, will be interested in spending some time with me again at some point in the future, just to kind of have access to a very informed discussion. How do I get? Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about candidate experience. So say I work in the Bay Area and I place software engineers, and I'm meeting with this wonderful candidate, .NET, Java, Python developer, and they're ready for their next play, looking for a new job. So I know that there's a lot of people in that area of the country, but I also know that a significant 30% changed jobs in the last year. There's over 10,000 opportunities for that candidate to go out and explore, right? And I want to help that candidate and place that candidate in a place, one, that is going to net them as much salary and me as much fee as possible, but also put them in a place that they're going to be super excited about. And this will actually help me, this data here will help me tell a story to potentially and hopefully close more candidates on offers that I'm able to generate for them. And so say that person I'm meeting with works at LinkedIn. Okay, there's quite a few developers there, but we also see that we're not at the top of the list. So I'll take a look here, and you see like how much of a hiring frenzy is taking place. So I might sort by jobs to see where opportunity is. Should be no surprise, right? Amazon, Apple, but Walmart Labs, AWS. There's also some up and coming, Splunk, Visa, Workday. And as I take it out further, you'll actually start to see some of the less known names that are out there hiring for folks. And at any point, I can actually just go and look and say, what does the talent pool look like at PlayStation? And I get a live in-window look at all 179 of these individuals that are making up that list. And these are screenshots of their LinkedIn profile summary. So say I'm meeting with that individual and they work at LinkedIn and they're considering a job at PlayStation. So I find PlayStation here. I see they've had 13% attrition. I also see their average compensation is $154,600. I go back and take a look at LinkedIn's information. And I see that LinkedIn pays $252,300 with lower attrition. So I might be able to help that candidate make a very informed decision as to whether or not they want to spend their time pursuing an opportunity there. Maybe their biggest motivator is compensation, and I might start to direct them towards these 5 companies that are currently paying more for talent. So I'll go back to the memorable experience. I think any candidate that shares an experience like this with a recruiter at your company, like, it's going to leave a very lasting impression. And I do think whether or not you place that candidate, they'll come back looking to work with you in the future. If I'm working with a hiring manager in this space, so again, LinkedIn, Bay Area software engineer, going to be able to have a very informed discussion with them. So yes, I've lost 24 people to Google, but I've gained 13 from Amazon. And I know from my stats around Amazon in this space that, you know, LinkedIn is paying roughly 75,000 more. So it's no surprise that they're picking up talent from Amazon. So when you start thinking about applying this information to customer conversations when negotiating fees, you can leverage information around scarcity, also information about where they rank from a pay scale perspective. And so if your customer is in a very saturated market with 10,000 open jobs that are available for software engineers, and they stack around, you know, at the 50th percentile in compensation, like, you've got a tough road ahead of you if they're looking to hire people out of Google, Apple, and Facebook. And so this would be a means for you to negotiate higher salaries for your talent, or which would drive up your placement fees, but also it could give you the opportunity to stretch requirements. And so making the job easier to fill and impacting your business in the form of increasing your fill rate with existing customers. Cool. All right, so we're going to stop there. Video again.
Yep. All right, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. I will see if there's any questions so far in the chat. So I don't see that there is, but all of your account executives, I'm sure, are happy to field any questions that you've had over the content today. I will be sending out a follow-up, and this data is the start of really what powers all of our products. So if you have any questions at all, this is just one aspect of our entire product suite, which your designated rep would be happy to discuss with you. If you don't know who your rep is, then feel free to reply to me. I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. But other than that, thank you again for the time, and